Good morning. I just heard a story I have to share. A Jew went into Bethlehem in English, to buy some things, and he got into a traffic situation where he couldn't move, and his windows were open. A man came up to the window and started talking Arabic, clearly a Muslim, in dress, in accent, in features. And he started talking calmly, as in Arabic. And when he saw that the Jew in the car couldn't answer him in Arabic, and he realized he was a Jew and not, say, American or French, Canadian, I don't know. He had a bag of rocks in his hand, and he started smashing the windows of the car. In other words, he approached the car, checked out who was in it, and then started smashing the windows with a sack of rocks. And this Jew was shocked. He was shocked that this nice speaking, nice approaching Arabic fellow, he didn't have a Palestinian flag on his head. He didn't have a scimitar in his belt, okay? But he was shocked because he knows that most of the Arabs in the world behave rather nicely. And they're known for their hospitality, as their forefather Ishmael was. And so too, other antecedents in the biblical narrative, like Esav, was also known to speak well, to seduce people with words. So this combination of seducing people with words and the sudden switch in a personality, where suddenly a person goes from being friendly to violent in an almost deadly way. I guess getting hit by a sack of rocks could kill you if, God forbid, you should never know or hear or see such a thing. And that switch is baffling to people, especially Westerners, because they don't live in the Arab culture, and they don't see how they behave and treat each other. And they can be super warm, and 2 seconds later, someone turned up the fire, and the warm becomes a deadly flame, an insane flame. And if you call them the next morning, they're calm again. Now what's happening? What's happening is the person is not wired the same as a Western person who expects a certain consistency of profile, consistency of personality features. That we expect an angry person to be angry, a violent person to be violent, and a nice person, we hope and expect he'll stay nice. Now we know nobody is so simple as this one trait. We're made of many traits, and they take turns dominating our personalities. We can be kind and we can be cruel. But when it happens so fast and the extremes are so great, that it makes you wonder. Now, it doesn't make me wonder because I lived in the territories, what's called the territories of Judah, for 28. Like that switch? That's the Highway 60. Some people call it, Terror Road, because so many violent terrorist actions have been done on Israelis for the past 50, 60 years. 70 years. Depends on how you measure. But the point is, the Torah already tells us this. The Torah says Yishmael is Pere Edom. Pere means wild. He's a wild man. Wild means unpredictable, unstable, inconsistent, unable to keep personal boundaries in place and to maintain a certain way of being with people, where they can be super friendly and super violent in a matter of minutes. Now, of course, that's not all Muslims and it's not all Arabs. But when the Talmud tells us something, they've been viewing the story for thousands of years before they write it down. We've been, as Western, well, I'm an American, I guess. That's what they tell me. You know, but as a Westerner, we're not haven't been exposed to this way of being and this way of living. But I've seen fathers loving to their sons and then whipping them in the streets publicly. I've seen them talk nicely to their sons and then curse them and threaten them in public. And they'll go back to being very nice to them the next day. And so it's baffling, my friends. It's confusing. But do you want to make a peace deal with this person? Or you want to keep them at a respectful distance? Do you want to have regular, in-depth, intimate conversation revealing your vulnerabilities to them? Vulnerabilities like where you live, what's your address, what's your phone number, what's your politics, what's your religion or your religious state, how you hold about Zionism. Do you want to reveal all your inner profile to people who are so unstable? I don't think so. And I think the Torah warned us 3,300 years ago that people are people and people conform to various traits. And I'm going to change lanes here a couple times because they're checking they're checking somebody's trunk. I hope they don't find anything. Unfortunately, around here, we find things all the time. So my friends, let's be wise. Let's be patient. Let's think deeper before we make judgments, before we make personality prejudices and oh, they're all so nice. This guy was telling me that got rocked his car. They're so nice, so many. I said, that's right. I'm sure 90% of the German people in the 1930s were very nice, dignified, educated people. But it only took 10% to destroy Europe. Or almost. And it might be that a large percentage of Arabs don't believe in global jihad and don't believe in murder is okay and terrorism is really a legitimate form of seeking freedom. Terrorism is not a legitimate form of seeking freedom. Terrorism is an inability to deal with your feelings and your problems in a mature way. And I know the rhetoric and I know the narrative, and everybody does. Well, they're this and they're that. They attacked Israel first in every single war. They were given a country and they refused it and chose war instead. Now, what do you do with that? You shake their hands and expect peace and give them their land back that you won because they attacked you? You know, if someone steals your car, do you, and then you catch them, do you feel sorry for them afterwards and give them the keys? So friends, we gotta do some work. We gotta get deeper and more real and more honest with each other. And the people that hold these false narratives, they need to be woken. The woke need to be woken, I'm afraid. And of course, with compassion and patience and understanding. But if people are not willing to listen, they're going to follow the brown shirts of every generation and of every culture. And they will follow the brown shirts right into Auschwitz, and they will pull the switch on the gas. Because a human being that doesn't have a moral compass has no compass. And it's the 90%'s responsibility to themselves and their children and their grandchildren to take care of that 10% that is bent on murder and doesn't make a mistake in perceiving true kindness, true wisdom, true patience, true negotiation, and all the false narratives that are being fed us by the moment from a highly paid, difficult to identify enemy. Hopefully we'll hear more good news. There's good news and bad news everywhere you look, so you gotta pick. You're gonna have to go shopping for your mental food. We'll see you again.